climb up to the top of the mountain was hard, and I was already breathing deeply from the effort. Whoever had gone before me had had an even harder climb, although he'd set out an easy-to-follow route. There had been cliffs to scale, boulders to go over, and I could see where he had hit some dead ends. Near a waterfall, I slipped on a slick rock and almost dropped to the pool below because I'd paid no attention to a warning sign that he'd left. During a storm, when the sky was dark and the rain like needles and I could hardly see as I struggled up the face of a cliff, my hand suddenly grabbed a rope, just when I needed it. He'd left it behind, and I pulled myself up to a sheltered ledge and slept the night. In the early morning sun, I just jumped a deep chasm at its narrowest point and could now see the top from where I stood in a small mountain meadow carpeted with tiny flowers. It was so clear up here. The air sparkled in the bright sunlight. And looking back, I could see the thick haze that covered the upheaval of the cities and towns way down below me. I started up the middle of the last section to the top. It was covered with loose rock called scree. Halfway up, I slipped and slid back down to the meadow. I started up again, slower this time, making sure of my steps. But again at the halfway point, the loose rocks gave way and I slid back down. I thought, I'm too close to the top now to accept defeat. There must be a way up through this stuff. I couldn't go around. The boulders on either side of the slide were smooth and went straight up. It was then my eyes fell upon 3 sticks on the ground in the shape of an arrow pointing off to my left. He'd left it there. I looked over to where they pointed and saw some solid rocks sticking up out of the slide area. I started climbing there. It was hard going, but manageable. And late in the afternoon, I finally stood on the top of the mountain. The wind was blowing fiercely, and I had to hang on so as not to be blown off. From here, I looked out at the other side, another land. It was clear as a bell all the way to the valley floor. There were cities and towns and farms, a river flowing peacefully. The whole place seemed peaceful, not quiet. No, there was lots of activity. But it had a direction and a harmony and a dignity to it, and nobody was getting in anyone else's way. I saw men and women and children of all shapes and sizes and colors, playing, working, going about their lives freely, not separated into groups, because the whole thing together was a group, and people moved about as individuals. I heard a bell from a church, a whistle from a boat, a cheer from a game somewhere. I could hear laughter and singing, and an occasional grunt from some laborious task. There were birds drifting through the shimmering air. The whole place sparkled under the sun like diamonds. Then as I looked, the mountain suddenly moved very slightly. Then it moved again, and looking down, I saw I was not standing on a mountain of rock at all. I was standing on the shoulders of a giant. He was looking straight ahead, straight across this bright, productive land, and he opened his mouth and said, "Let freedom ring."